Good night, this is Fumi Sleepy Time Stories. Tonight's bedtime story is about to begin.
Once upon a time, an old couple had just finished their day's work and were resting outside their shabby little house. Suddenly, a fine carriage drawn by 4 black horses came rolling toward them. Out stepped a man dressed in noble garments. The farmer stood up, approached the distinguished guest, and asked if there was anything he could do to serve him. The stranger extended a hand and said, "I want nothing fancy, only a simple peasant's meal. Just prepare potatoes the usual way, and I shall feast heartily." The farmer chuckled. "You must be a count or a marquis, maybe even a duke. Nobles often get such cravings, but your wish shall be granted." His wife began to peel and wash the potatoes, preparing them as dumplings, the way country folk did. Meanwhile, the farmer invited the guest into the garden where he was digging holes to plant trees. "Do you have children to help you with the work?" asked the stranger. "No," replied the farmer. "We had a son once, but he ran away long ago. He was clever but lazy and full of mischief. He left us and never returned." The old man picked up a sapling, placed it into a hole, pressed soil around it with his foot, and tied it to a stake. The stranger pointed to a crooked tree nearby and asked, "Why don't you stake that one to help it grow straight?" The farmer laughed. "Sir, you clearly know nothing about gardening. That tree is old and gnarled beyond repair. Trees must be trained young if they're to grow straight." The stranger replied, "So it was with your son. Had he been raised with discipline, he would not have run away. Now he's hardened and scarred." "That's true," said the farmer. "He must be a very different man by now." "If he returned, would you recognize him?" asked the stranger. "Not by his looks," said the farmer, "but he has a birthmark on his shoulder like a bean." At that, the stranger removed his coat and revealed the birthmark. "Good heavens!" the old man cried. "You are my son." Love for his child surged up in his heart, but he hesitated. "You are now a refined and wealthy gentleman. How could you be my son?" "Oh, father," said the young man, "a tree grows crooked without a stake. I've grown too twisted to be straight again. I became a thief, but don't be alarmed. I'm a master thief. I never steal from the poor, only from the rich, and only what they can spare." "But a thief is still a thief," said the father sadly, "and thieves meet bitter ends." He brought his son to his wife. When she learned the guest was their own son, tears of joy streamed down her face, followed by sorrowful tears when she heard he was a thief. At last she said, "Even if he's a thief, he's still my son, and I'm glad to see him again." They sat together at the table and shared a simple meal. The son hadn't eaten such food in a long time. His father said, "If the count in town knew what you do for a living, he wouldn't cradle you like he did at your christening. He'd have you hanged." "Don't worry, father," the thief said. "I've got my tricks. In fact, I shall go and pay the count a visit tonight." At dusk, he rode off to the castle. The count welcomed him, thinking he was a nobleman, but turned pale when he revealed his identity. "Because you are my godson, I shall not hand you over," said the count. "But if you are truly a master thief, prove it. Fail, and you'll fetch your own noose." "Name 3 challenges," the thief said. "If I fail, I'll accept your judgment." The Count thought a moment and said, "First, steal my horse from the stables. Second, while my wife and I are asleep, take the mattress from beneath us and my wife's wedding ring without us waking. Third, steal the pastor and deacon from the church. That will test your talent." The thief went to the nearest town and bought an old peasant woman's outfit, stained his face brown, painted on wrinkles, and filled a small barrel with drugged Hungarian wine. Then he staggered toward the Count's estate, coughing like an old woman with asthma. Near the stables, soldiers sat around a fire. One called out, "Come warm yourself, old mother. You can stay here the night." She asked them to help her with the wine barrel, then offered them drinks. They drank deeply and fell asleep one by one, those inside the stable too. The thief replaced the reins and tail with rope and straw, then unbuckled the saddle and tied the sleeping guard still, sitting on it to the stable wall, suspending him mid-air. He muffled the horse's hooves with cloth, let it out silently, and rode away. At dawn, the thief returned triumphantly. "Good morning, Count," he called. "Here's your horse, stolen straight from your stable. Your guards are enjoying a lovely nap." The Count laughed. "Well done. But don't think the next challenge will be so easy. If I catch you again, I'll treat you like a true thief." That night, the Count locked every door and swore to stay awake. The Countess clutched her wedding ring. Meanwhile, the thief crept to the gallows, cut down a corpse, and slung it over his shoulder. He climbed a ladder to the Count's bedroom window. When the Count saw a shadow, he fired his gun, hitting the corpse. The thief dropped it and hid. The Count descended, thinking he'd killed the thief, carried the body to the garden, and began digging a grave. Seizing the chance, the thief crept inside, mimicked the Count's voice, and told the Countess, "Our godson is dead. I'll bury him discreetly to spare his poor parents. Hand me the mattress and his wedding ring to wrap him in." She obeyed. The thief took both and vanished. The next morning, the thief returned with the mattress and ring. The Count was stunned. "Are you a ghost? I buried you with my own hands." "No," the thief laughed. "You buried a condemned criminal." He explained the whole trick. The Count had to admit he was a clever rogue, but it's not over. One task remains. If you fail, all your success will be for nothing. The thief merely smiled and went home. That night, he packed a sack with crabs and a bundle of candles. At the churchyard, he tied candles to the crabs' backs, lit them, and set them loose to wander. Then he donned a black robe like a priest and glued a gray beard to his chin. He stepped onto the altar and cried in a high voice, "Hear ye! I am Saint Peter, gatekeeper of heaven. The dead walk, the end is near. If you wish to enter heaven, climb into this sack now." The deacon and pastor, alarmed by the flickering lights and cries, rushed to the church. They listened for a while. The deacon nudged the pastor and whispered, "Before the world ends, we must seize our chance to enter heaven." "Let's go," said the pastor. "You first." So they climbed onto the altar and into the sack. The thief tied it shut and dragged them down the steps. When their heads bumped the stairs, he said, "We're crossing the mountains, through the village. We're flying through the clouds, up the castle stairs. These are heaven's gates." He shoved the sack into the dovecote, scattering doves. Hear the angels fluttering, he said, then locked the door. The next morning, he stood before the count. The pastor and deacon are in the sack, as requested. The count climbed to the dovecote and found them inside, dazed and confused. You truly are a master thief, he admitted. You've won. But now leave this land and never return, or I shall hang you myself. So the thief bid farewell to his parents and vanished into the wide world, never to be seen again.
The end.